Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is directed by Daniel Destin Cretton, stars Simu Liu, Awkwafina, Tony Leung, and Michelle Yeoh, and tells the story of Shang-Chi attempting to escape his past, has moved to San Francisco where he works as a valet driver with his friend Katie. Then one day, when his past comes looking back for him, up to Shang-Chi, Katie, and other friends that they find along the way to restore his past and even help Shang-Chi make his own future. Shang-Chi, at the beginning of the year, was like in my top 5 favorite movies. So the hype for me was pretty high, and I was actually able to see the movie early. I was able to see it on Wednesday, August 18th as part of a super early showing. Essentially, I was trying to look for spoilers to spoil myself and stumbled upon a link that led me to a website called GoFobo.com, where Marvel was teaming up with them to screen Shang-Chi for free in 25 cities in the United States. I live in Salt Lake City, so I was able to get on a wait list. The next day, they told me that I could go and claim some tickets. So I claimed my tickets. I got to the theater probably 2 hours early in order to solidify my spot. Once I got to the theater, they had me exchange my digital ticket for physical tickets, and the guy at the guest services counter kind of looked at me and he said, Are you going to use your extra ticket? And at that point, I wasn't. I thought my wife was going to come. She couldn't. I thought TC, who's the other host of Sweet Film Talk, was going to come. He couldn't. And so I was just kind of like, well, I'm out one ticket. So I was also able to give my extra ticket to this guy. We got some concession together. We saw the movie. And it was a really awesome experience because they have you wait in line. You check in your phone. And, jeez, I keep burping. They put it in a bag. And then Marvel had brought security to frisk you before you went inside to make sure you didn't have any recording devices. Packed house, packed IMAX theater, and it was cool to be able to sit and talk with the people who I was around. So to give a review for Shang-Chi at Sweet Film Talk, we grade movies, obviously on the letter grade scale, so from A+ to F. And then we also do something a little bit different. We grade a movie based on whether it's sweet, sour, or spoiled. So for the YouTube review, I'm going to break down the movie into those individual categories, starting with sweet. Sweet is everyone's going to like it about the movie. First off, the action sequences were really, really impressive. Best of the Marvel movies. I don't know how much that is saying of that it is the best of the Marvel movies, but it's definitely the most fluid. I think probably the movies that Shang-Chi's action sequences will be compared to most are the John Wick movies. The John Wick movies are rather static in the wide shots that you get of the action sequences, so you don't get a lot of camera movement. There's not a lot of sweeping shots. While as in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, not only do you get those wide shots, but there's a lot of tracking shots within those wide shots. You get a lot of sweeping movements of the camera that make the scenes feel very dynamic. Second thing for me that I found was very sweet was Tony Leung. He is one of the most impressive and best actors that has been working for a while. He comes out of Hong Kong. And I'm wearing this shirt 2 days in a row. I'm wearing a shirt that has to do with the movie. This is In the Mood for Love. That's a weird squat. I'll probably cut the squat out. So he's also in The Mood for Love, which is an A+ suite. And I think he's really awesome as the villain in this movie. It gives him a good backstory while also making his turn from villain to not good guy, but father as Shang-Chi's father and Shang-Chi's sister Jia Ling. He does a great job of trying to become good while also having these maleficent background, especially with having the Ten Rings as this leader of a shadow organization. He does a great job. I would even say in the sweet aspect too is just the cast in general. Simu Liu and Awkwafina have really fun chemistry, and even his sister Jia Ling that comes involved and some other characters that are introduced bring a fun dynamic to the movie. I would have to say that the last thing that I really, really liked and stood out to me was the soundtrack. There is a record label called 88 Rising, and did something similar to what Kendrick Lamar did with Black Panther. So they compiled the soundtrack for Shang-Chi, and it has a lot of really good kind of Asian elements to it, along with having some hip-hop feel and also being from the United States too. So it blends those really well. I think the soundtrack was really cool. The parts that I found sour for us are aspects of a movie that, depending on your taste, you may or may not like it. So I think the sourest part of the movie is the humor. The humor is introduced, and it's very Marvel-esque, where it gets thrown into scenes that are not necessarily needed. Specifically, there's a scene on a plane where Shang-Chi and Katie are talking about where Shang-Chi grew up and who he actually is, as she's getting to know him more. And there's a really good scene. It feels really emotional. Then it's cut off by this really clunky humor scene that did not work for me. So that aspect of the humor, I don't think a lot of people will like, because it interrupts a lot of emotional scenes and kind of chops up the editing. Another aspect of the humor that's very sour is a certain character is introduced that I thought was funny. I enjoyed it, but I feel like most people are going to hate it. Now, to the spoiled aspect, I don't think much of the movie is spoiled. I had a fun time with it. It's actually grown on me more. But the most spoiled part of it, there's a scene where Shang-Chi, his sister Jia Ling, and Awkwafina are eating dinner with Tony Leung's character, whose name is Wen Wu in the movie. And Wen Wu is asking Shang-Chi, figuring out, when Shang-Chi's living in San Francisco, he goes by the name of Shane. So he asks, why didn't you just go by Shang-Chi? And they're talking about names. And then he asks Katie, he says, what is your name? And Katie responds saying, no, it's Katie. My name's Katie. And Wen Wu says, no, what is your Chinese name? And Katie responds with her Chinese name. And for me, so my full name is Darren Kamiko Ho'okano Adcock. The Kamiko Ho'okano come from a great-grandfather of mine who died during the attack on Pearl Harbor. So names and the meaning of names and culture and heritage are very important to me. And the fact that they threw this scene in, I was pretty shocked, because it really hit home for me, and I know that it's a scene that will hit home for many other people that have different names. So maybe they go by nicknames. For example, I go by Keeks, or I go by Kiko, by a lot of friends and family. So I think there are a lot of people who are going to like that scene and really appreciate it. The only thing is they never expand upon it other than that one scene. If they would have just hit home a little bit more with appreciating where you come from and the name that's been given to you, I think that really could have bumped up the movie for me, like from a B to a B+. Overall, that's kind of the only spoiled aspect of the movie. I think the movie was a really good watch. It was a fun watch. There were great visuals, especially really fun visuals in the third act that seem a little far-fetched when they're happening, but it's a fun enough time that it feels very Dragon Ball Z-esque, and you get really into it. But I think the movie is solid. It's good. I would give Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings a B/sweet. Thank you all for watching and tuning in. This was your review of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Thank you to Marvel and Megaplex for giving me the chance to see it like 2.5 weeks early. That was super awesome. And as always, stay sweet. Sweet.